what do you think you got the biggest benefit from? Vince thinks mostly life skills versus dating.
I agree entirely.
Okay.
I agree, and I would say it was. I would just rephrase it saying I didn't think that being straightforward, honest, and real would work, and I guess you figured out. You told me how to make it work. It didn't work the way I was doing it.
Yeah.
It still doesn't.
But sometimes, you know, when you're confronting somebody with a gun, it's not a good idea to be too blunt.
Or too submissive, or too open without getting anything in return. Yada yada yada, bunch of stuff. But
so the two guys that could have benefited the most from your talk about negotiating a salary aren't here. So why don't you tell me what you think the highlights are of what you learned? Mike learned this by doing it. He learned assertiveness training, and then he learned. I think we had that book. Negotiate something or other, winning through.
How you can negotiate anything. I think Harry Cohen, I think his name. I can't remember his name.
Sounds right. Anyway,
Herb Cohen. That's it, Herb.
Mike digested all that, and then when let me tell the story. So Mike got laid off. I don't remember where he was working, and he couldn't get a job. And he couldn't get a job, and he couldn't get a job because he kept expecting to be able to get the same kind of a job, same pay, after he was laid off. But that doesn't work that way. So he was fretting and fussing, and I said, get a job, any job. So I think he got a job with it as a temporary programmer or something. Is that right, Mike? I don't remember for sure.
That's correct. UI tester.
So then
user experience tester.
Once he was employed, then he's no longer a leper with AIDS. So people will actually return his phone calls, make a meeting. So he got another good job, but when he got that job, he wasn't really pushy about the money. But I think the next job is where he learned how to negotiate the salary before he signed up. I don't know if I'm remembering that right or not, Mike. Why don't you tell us?
You got it right.
God, it's amazing. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can remember something happened 10 years ago. Go ahead. Tell me.
So yes, that's exactly the right sequence. I didn't have a job, and I was sort of just taking it easy. And for multiple reasons, you told me, not only because of, you can't get a job if you don't have one, but more to the point, it keeps you honest in the sense of it gives you a routine, even if you don't need one. If you get up in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening, it gives you a life routine. It gives you a way to socialize with people and other things. And for me, things fell in place. I can't speak to others. But for me, a routine really helps.
Yeah, me too.
So if I have to get out of bed in the morning, I will. If I don't, I'll find a way to waste the rest of my day. I'm rather good at that, if I may say so.
Practice. Anyway, can you tell them about the salary and some of the phrases you used? I think you learned one of them for me was, "Oh, that's not quite what I expected," or some very
right. So we had worked on a script. So after that first temporary job, I got another temporary job where they gave me a permanent job, and I took it without arguing because it was okay for the time being. And after that, I applied for this third job, and initially, they always ask you what are you expecting in salary, and you had taught me to say, which I said I expect a market competitive offer, and just left it at that. I wouldn't give them a number. They tried to 10 different ways to get me to give me a number, and I said I expect a competitive price. And they'd say, what do you get paid now? I said, I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to say, and all that, because I think your idea was you have to get them invested, a little bit pregnant before you move forward. So I went through the interview, and then they came back and they called me and they said, we'd like for you to come on board. And they named a number, and I think I just kept quiet for about 15 seconds or so. And I said, that's not what I expected. That's it. And I just stopped. And they said, well, what were you expecting? And I named a number. And they said, let's say, just for example's sake, they said, 100K a year. And I said, I want 150. And they said, well, that's not going to work for us. We can't do 100. We could do 110. And I just, again, kept quiet. And I said, I'm looking to move up in my career. And they said, well, that's too bad. We can't do that, but let me go check with the manager and I'll get back to you. I said, okay. And then they came back to me and said, well, we can't do the best we can do is 120 or something like that. And I said, well, look, the job is very exciting. I enjoyed meeting everyone, and I'd love to come on board. If you can go to 140, I'll come and sign today. And that's it. I didn't say anything else. And they say this and this and that and this and that. And I said, I'll come right now, get in my car right now and come. If you can make 140 work. Can we make this work? And she says, okay, let me this and that. And within 15 minutes, they called back and said yes. I said, okay, done.
Good for you. Wow. Okay, Mike, you wanted to say something in the middle of that. Mike Hamilton.
That was an awesome story. And also, Mike, I recognize your voice from the radio show. I've heard your voice so many times. Your laugh is the same, but you've certainly lost your accent. So anyway, I'm glad to have you in person. But so
I'm going to give the credit for the accent. I'm going to give to Don. I used my native name before that time too. So Don got me to fix that.
His name used to be LaShawn Tyrone Washington. And I told him to change your name. You'll never get anywhere with that name. Anyway.
So my question on this negotiating stuff is, because I can see myself sitting in your seat sometime soon, but did you have an actual number in mind, or was it just you were waiting for them to drop a number and you wanted to hit them with a 50% increase over whatever they quoted you? Like, did you have an actual number?
I had a minimum number in mind because what I said was true. I believed it. I said, I already make 120. Why would I come to you for 100?
But they didn't even know that though, right?
No, they didn't know that, but I had a number in mind. I said, I'm already making 120, and if I don't make 140, why should I bother? I'm already set. I have a reputation. I do well. I have a routine. I know what I'm doing. Why would I bother to take on something new?
Mm-hmm.
If all they can offer is as much as I make or less.
Well, I think my situation will be a little bit different, but the numbers are actually about the same, because if I interview for a job, I'm going to relocate. That's my plan. So I'm hoping to interview for a job out there, one that I haven't even identified yet. But I'm currently consulting, so I work for myself, and I'm making between, 120 to 140 a year, depending on how much I decide to work. And so I would probably ask for something north of 100 anyway.
Let me interrupt here.
So you should go ahead, Don. Sorry.
The most important thing to do is figure out how much you're worth in the real market. And the only way you can find that out is go on job interviews. Or if you're astute at looking at those job websites, you might be able to figure out what you're worth from that. And then there's employment agencies that have a range. You say you're a technical, Mike has so many skills, I don't know what he's going to call himself. He's going to be a jack of all trades in the steel business or something. But anyway, you need to find out what you're worth, Mike. It isn't what you want, it's what you're worth. And so you need to have that number in your head. Like, let's say, whatever you call yourself, engineer, designer, fabricator, they're making 200,000. You've got to find that out now, or you're going to be fucked forever. It's going to happen to you what happened to poor Joe Montreal there. he went in for much less than they were willing to pay because he didn't know how much he was worth coming out of real estate into a business. So you got to do your own research. You can't just go in there and negotiate because you might be getting fucked out of 50 or 60 grand. You never know. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh,
So
that,
I'd suggest Mike get this book. It's by Herb Cohen. Herb is the first, like Herbert. Herb Cohen. Cohen. It's called. The title is "You Can Negotiate Anything." It's either the book or the recorded version. And the essential point in there, which Don emphasized, not only for jobs but for dating and everything in life, is the one who has the power to say no is the one who wins the negotiation. You should be willing to walk away
yeah,
without being rude, without being inconsiderate, without calling them names, anything like that.
that I'm actually experienced at. I used to license photography, so I walked away from a good number of bad deals. I got very comfortable at saying no. And actually, my current contracting rate, I was the same thing too. There was a lot of back and forth on that, which I actually quite enjoyed. I don't know if I ever told that story, but I just befuddled the hiring guy.
Yeah,
But, anyway.
you told me when we were doing your cover letter, which
Yeah,
we better
man.
get back to, by the way.
So a couple of things that Don taught me. One, I have a 50-cent word proclivity to talk a lot. So the less you say, the better. And you should be willing to walk away without being inconsiderate. And you should express excitement for the opportunity. Meaning, if they actually give you what you want, then don't dilly-dally. Just say, okay, done. I'm coming right now.
Nice. Okay.
I agree,
Great advice. Thank you, Mike.
especially on not talking too much. I'm serious. When cops stop you, the less you say, the better off you are. If you say nothing, you're even better off than that. So it's the same with a job interview. They're trying to find out what they can get you for, and you're trying to avoid telling them until they get ready to put the cards on the table. So it's like dating in the fact that you have to be the catch in your own mind. And if you think she's the catch, you're not going to get anywhere. If you think, oh God, I got to have this job, I'm going to die, it'll come across the wrong way. Most companies, I'm sorry, you could negotiate with some one-man business or two-man business much differently than you can with a corporation. Okay, but that's a field. That's not necessarily read about that in a book. What we're talking about here is negotiating with a big company where they have HR and they have accountants and they have everybody to answer to, and they have a cookbook on how much they can pay and how much they can raise and all that bullshit. And you have to find your way through that maze and get to the number.
Okay. So Mike, you said, it's not your situation right now, and it would be hard for you to mention something because sometimes it's not real. Let's say you're only making 80 and you want to go to 150. Role play. I role played a lot with Don and a few of the other guys on the list until I could act the part. That's it.
Good memory, Mike. I forgot about that. That's important. When you do it over and over again, you start to believe it yourself. You're becoming an actor as opposed to being a person. So you come across as sincere. Anyway, that's just another skill, but that's why I try to get everyone to take Acting 101. It's not just so you develop an extroverted attitude, but so you're able to act when it's time to act, as opposed to being real.
Whether it's a friend or Don or somebody, you can, for example, if you and I are staying in the same town, you can say, hey, Mike, let me buy you a cup of coffee. And you say, okay, you pretend to be the HR lady and I'm applying. And here's the context. And be mean, be as hard as you can be. And then watch me, my body language, my tone of language, etc.
I agree with that 100%. I keep forgetting about all this good stuff.